Hey guys, Trevor John coming after another Watcher of Realms video. Alright, so the last video that we did with the 5 best for the defenders did really well. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to continue the saga here. We're going to be talking about the top 5 best fighters in Watchers of Realms. I'm going to go over first who they are, give you that up front, and then I will dive more into each specific as to what makes them so exceptional and the top 5. All right, so first things first, right now we do have a lot of champions that we have to talk about in the fighter environment. Notice there are quite a bit here compared to some of the other, well, what is it, the types of factions, whatever. I always get confused exactly what they call these guys. But either way, the fighter faction here has a lot of options. So there's a lot of debate on, okay, who's the best, who's not the best, so on and so forth. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna fire off the top 5 best right now for you guys. And then I'll go ahead and I'll go more into detail. So number 1, the first one that's going to be the best out of all of them is gonna be Salazar, for sure. Number 1, easy. Number 2 is gonna probably be Arrogance. From my testing with my Arrogance, as well as watching some other YouTube videos, talking to some other content creators, by far one of the best damage dealers out there. Massive range, highly sought for. The next one we're going to talk about is actually going to be my girl Zillatu. Now I did get her very early, and I can attest to the damage that she can do. Definitely going to be the top 3 for me. So yeah, hopefully you guys also agree. Next one we're going to talk about is going to be Abomination. Now Abomination has a lot of things going for him, on top of the simple fact that anyone can get him with a fusion. That's huge in itself. And then last but not least, we're going to mention is going to be Wrath. Wrath kind of pulls a double duty, so to speak, and does a massive amount of damage. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about him. He's also super self-sustained. So that's gonna be the top 5 fighters in Watcher of Realms. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's jump back up to number 1, to Salazar, and let's go talk about him as to why is he the number 1 fighter in Watchers of Realms. So first things first, you can see that he attacks one enemy and has a 15% chance to inflict bleed. Bleed is super impactful in this game. So if you guys don't know what bleed is, it deals damage equal to 1% of the target's max HP per second and increases their physical damage taken by 10%. It's essentially a ramp up of damage taken. So it's very, very impactful, especially if the enemy if your character already hits pretty hard with a bleed bonus on top of it, they will die very quickly. His ultimate here, it's launching 6 strikes randomly on all targets in range. Notice that the range is a little wider than what you would think, and it's dealing 300% damage, becoming immune to all damage when this skill is in effect. Basically, he can't take any damage while he's using this. This is huge. This skill guarantees crit hits on targets inflicted with bleed. Once again, bleed on the A1, so if he's doing an A1 attack and then you proc the ulti, boom. I can think you guys are getting why he's so good. All right, last but not least, we have launches basic attack on one enemy, dealing 35% damage 2 times. The second attack will guarantee a crit hit if they're inflicted with bleed. And then last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be restores 3% max HP for every 7 crit hits landed. So notice this theme, the thematic here of crit rate, guaranteed crit rates of bleed, guaranteed crit rates of bleed, bleed on the A1, and then right here, you guys can see it all day long. Basically, if he lands a crit, he's going to self-heal, self-sustain. So basically his bleeds are going to go out. He's going to guarantee himself the crits. As he's guaranteed the crits, he's going to keep himself held up. He's going to be a massive damage dealer with unbelievable sustain. You will not need to necessarily pair him with a healer. Just make sure that he has a lot of attack and a lot of damage and a lot of rage regen, so that way he can keep going through and just cycling through these self-sustaining type abilities and attacks, clearing out the battlefield. All right, next one we're going to talk about is going to be Arrogance. Now, Arrogance, I did recently just pull. I actually pulled him while doing a collab with my good friend Ivy League Gaming. Go check out her channel. Go subscribe. Watch that video. It was a lot of fun that we talked about our five favorites and a bunch of other things in Watchers of Realms. But I pulled Arrogance, and I at the time did not realize how OP he was. Now, after building him up, utilizing him, I'm finding out very quickly that he is probably, I got him rated as number 2. For me, he's number 1, but that's because I don't have a Salazar, so I can't compare him apples to apples. But simply going off his kit, he is insane. He's definitely been a huge help for me. So first things first, 1, he's got the attacks one enemy within 1 tile with the Demon Blades, dealing 100% damage. It deals single target damage to enemies further away or airborne when the Demon Bow. So he does have a kind of a shifting like stance, and actually when you click on him on the battlefield, you can actually see on the icon on the far right where it'll actually change into a different pattern for his attack pattern. All right, moving on. His ulti, one, it's an auto, which is huge, but its Berserker stance, attacks inflict 260% damage, increase basic attack range, right? So once again, that's where that one comes in, where it increases the range. The blade inflicts AoE damage to enemies around the main target equal to 20% of that main target. So what happens is he goes and does an AoE on a single target, and then it destroys everything around it, hits everything around it at a reduced effect. Also chance to burn as well, which burning, just similar to bleed, is also super OP in Watchers of Realms. For every one enemy is killed while in Berserker stance, receives one attack speed bonus. Attacks from this talent when the attack stance ends, deals 80% AoE damage up to 10 adjacent enemies 2 times. What that means is, say for example, if you want to use him in, say, like the XP raid, the gold raid, certain other types of attributes or other types of battles in the game that have a lot of enemies coming at the same time, he's going to do a very, very good job of just clearing, 100% clearing, because what's going to happen is he's going to attack him, he's going to keep ramping up his attack speed, and then he's going to, after everything's said and done, do a massive AoE damage battle, which is going to destroy everything. Devil's Dance, this is like I was telling you, that button you click there, it's Demon Bow, Demon Boomerang, 15% chance to attack 2 targets, Demon Blades, 15% chance for double strikes. Just simply stating that, hey, yes, you can go into the Demon Bow or the Demon Boomerang type stance, and that'll impact how he does damage overall. Overall, though, I can definitely say he is a beast. I have used him on my account. He was a massive, massive increase in DPS for me. So happy to get him. Hopefully you guys will as well. All right, moving on. Number 3, what we have here is Zillatu. Now, Zillatu, once again, I started off very early with her. I got super lucky, guys. I was very excited. I didn't know at the time how broken she was, but I was already using Baron, and I threw her behind my Baron, and everything just got destroyed and melted away. It was right then and there that I knew, okay, yes, she's worth investing in. So let's go ahead and talk about her. Why is she number 3? So she deals 100% damage to one enemy, including airborne units. So notice they're the airborne units. That's huge, right? Mainly because a lot of these fighters won't necessarily do airborne units. They'll do physical, they'll do ground units. So she does prioritize doing like airborne damage, which is really, 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 really good. Wait, sorry, she doesn't prioritize it. She can attack it. Clarification there. There are some that say it prioritize, but basically also blocked targets take 20% more damage. So like I said, if you place her behind your defender, like Baron or Olag, whichever one you're going to be using, every enemy that she attacks in front is going to be blocked. They're going to take 20% more damage. That's what makes her so broken with her A1. All right, so her ultimate ability, when triggered, deals 300% extra damage in a larger range for 25 seconds, inflicting burning every time the hero attacks. This is huge because what happens is basically she just does a whole AoE like clear and places burning, which destroys enemies. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. So her ultimate is very, very helpful, but it's a manual trigger. Soul Siphoning. Each attack will deal additional true damage by 40% attack to the target above 80%. Basically, if they are a nice healthy target, she's going to do more damage. That's what that says. That's huge. I personally love those types of mechanics because it gives you a good burst down, and then usually you can pair with another champion who has something along the same lines where it's like, hey, if they're under like 40% HP, it'll burst them down further, and you just pair them together, get a good synergy. Last but not least is her passive ability. Charges energy after 3 seconds of not dealing damage. Increased damage by 5% per second up to 25%. Why I'm pointing this out is basically because this is a tower defense. There's a lot of waves, right? Wave after wave after wave. There's usually a lull. So that lull is when she's going to ramp up. So the fact that she does a ramp up and then goes back into proccing this more damage, so on and so forth, allows her to really do a lot of damage very quickly. Amazing champion, definitely want to get her. Number 4 on the list that we're going to be talking about is going to be Abomination. Now, Abomination is, I would say, undeniably, he's a very good champion, but he's very late game versus early game, basically because you do have to take a long time to fuse him. You can go ahead and fuse Abomination. If you go into the summons here and you go into Hero Fusion, you can see he's on the list here, and you just have to create him. I could eventually do this if I wanted to invest. I probably will at some point in time, but everyone can get him at least one time, which makes him very valuable. That's also part of the reason why he comes in at number 4, is because he is accessible to everyone. All right, so his kit is actually a pretty good kit as well. So he deals damage to one enemy with a 15% of triggering an AoE attack. Okay, so that 15% chance of an AoE attack can be very, very good. It can literally make or break the type of build, which then gives you both single target and AoE, which that is huge in any type of game, right? His ultimate, it's once again, it's an auto ulti. I prefer those myself, so that way it's a less button click that you have to do. But basically, he's going to increase his max HP by 50%, and he's going to extend his range a little bit. He's going to be able to do a lot more damage and some AoE damage, while also inflicting burning, which once again, burning, bleeding are the 2 best debuffs, so to speak, in the game. Not to be confused also though with like defensive down. That's a slightly different type of debuff. But as far as damage taken debuffs placed, burning and bleeding are the 2 best in Watchers of Realms. All right, passive. For every 3 times taking damage permanently increases attack speed by 6. Why is this important to note? Is basically you want him to get attacked for a little bit, so that way he gets a lot faster attack speed, which then procs out more and more abilities, which then also gives you more chance for AoE. So it synergizes extremely well, especially if you put him in like a blocker type role. He unfortunately only blocks for 2, which is unfortunate, but that's okay because you're going to be using him as a fighter, so you're going to want to do a massive amount of damage. Also notice that his effect is permanent. This is going to make him extremely viable in say like the clan boss or the guild boss and other areas of the game, so to speak, because he will destroy them very quickly and then also permanently increase that attack speed. All right, last but not least, when HP drops below 40%, gains invulnerability that lasts for 4 seconds. Basically what that means is for 4 seconds, he cannot take damage, which is going to be huge. Then it restores his HP by 30% of the max HP, so he's going to survive up again. Now, this is definitely not going to be possible the entire fight for self-sustain, but it is very good to have, basically when it can be procced, so to speak. It kind of guarantees that he doesn't die on the field. But once again, if you get overwhelmed, you get overwhelmed. Unfortunately, nothing you can do about that. Overall, though, he's a great champion, and also his cost is only 17, which is pretty good for a fighter out there. All right, last but not least, guys, is going to be Wrath. He's going to be our epic that we're going to talk about. Now, Wrath was one of the champions that I actually slept on until I talked to Ivy Lee. She sent me a video. I watched it, easily found out why Wrath was so good. Talked about him in another video, and essentially he has a lot going for him. So first things first is one, his crit rate is plus 15%. A crit hit has 20% chance to attack 2 times quickly. So basically already before even digging into his kit, he already has 15% crit rate, which is huge because you want to be at 100. And if he does a crit hit, he has 20% attacks again, so you get him to a 100. That gives him 1 out of 5 attacks. He's going to do a double attack, which allows him to burst things down very quickly. That's why he makes the list at number 5. But nothing to brag here on the A1. It's just a simple 100% damage to 1 enemy. But once again, this could be a 2 times, a 200%, 1 out of 5. Autocast. When activated, increases damage by 30% for 30 seconds. Additionally, every 3 attacks lands triggers 90% extra damage up to 5 targets in range 1 time. What this means is, once again, we're talking about bursting down enemies here. When this procs down, he's going to go ahead and he's going to start destroying other people because his damage is going to proc up, as well as while he's doing that, every time he lands 3 attacks. So if he's going fast and fast and fast, he gets attack speed up, it's then going to allow him to do the extra damage up to 5 targets in range. Absolutely a destroyer of abilities. All right, so his other ability here is the next attack deals 60% additional damage after every 4 attacks. So once again, we're talking about 1 out of 5 attacks is a chance to land or hit twice, right? So if you get a double proc, you get a double proc, that's 4 attacks. That means the one afterwards is going to do an extra 60% damage. I think you guys are kind of seeing what I'm talking about here, where all this accumulates into one champion doing a massive amount of burst damage. Last but not least is he is a Lord skill, which is very helpful, especially depending on how you set up your lineup and what champions you're utilizing. Basic attributes up by 10%, which is great. Also, he can do attack speeds up to 35%. That is huge in itself. Unfortunately, he does lose some healing effects that could come from this, but the fact that the attack speed goes up and up and up, this plays right into the rest of his kit and allows him to just destroy the enemies out there. So definitely keep an eye on Wrath. He's going to be one of those that's easier to come across, and he's actually guaranteed for everyone in the game. So once again, that's the last two are guaranteed, with Abomination and Wrath coming in at 4 and 5 on the fighter tally. So definitely keep them in mind. You want to try to get them as much as you can. Now, there are a few also notable mentions here, but we won't get too into them. But like Volka, she's a very good one as well to kind of talk about and bring up. She's guaranteed as well once you finish the storyline quest. And Valkyrie is another one that is huge here that did not make the list. She has so much potential, especially with his one, the ally revival, and two, this long range out here with the ultimate proccing a massive amount of damage every time it comes down. She's definitely going to be an honorable mention, but unfortunately those are going to be like after the top 5 here, and I wanted to keep this to the top 5, so definitely keep that in mind. And hopefully this video helped you guys decide, okay, where are my level 5 heroes at, and are they the best ones that I could utilize in the game? All right, that's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. Stay tuned. I will be covering all of these very, very soon. And yeah, if you enjoyed, see you guys in the next one. Peace.